Now we're going to look at how shifting and scaling the data affects the numbers. So here are the weights for senior football players on the 2017 Texas A&M roster, and I went ahead and I entered all this data in the calculator. So remember, it's stat and edit, and you can just go through and put in the numbers. And then I went ahead and did the stat calc, one var stats. Since it's list one, I don't really have to specify it, and you can see I've generated the numbers here, which I went ahead and pasted right there. So here are my original numbers for the original weights for the Texas A&M roster. Okay, now let's say they gain 5 pounds. So that means I'm going to add 5 pounds to every piece of data. So there's a nice way when you're doing something simple to a list like this, on the calculator, instead of me typing in this whole list, I can do something else. I can actually go stat, edit, just like I was doing before. But now, instead of that first line, go up and see how it says L2 equals? I can say that L2 equals L1 plus, oh, sorry, yeah, gains 5 pounds. And that generates the data for me. And so you can see that there are the new summary statistics for the weight with 5 pounds. Now make sure when you do the one var stats that you use list 2 for this so that you have the data here. So what changed from the first set of data or summary statistics to the second set? You're going to find out the min Q1, median Q3, and the max all changed, and it looks like they all went up by 5. The mean also went by 5, but the IQR and the standard deviation stayed the same. Well, what if they lose 5 pounds? All right, so we can do the same trick. We can, well, it's not really a trick, it's a tool. Edit and take list 1 and subtract 3 pounds. So here I am selecting list 1, subtract 5 pounds, I'm sorry. And then go to one var stats for list 3. And you'll see there is my new summary data. How does that look? So now they lost 5 pounds. Well, if you look at the numbers, all of these numbers are 5 less than the original, with the exception of the spread, IQR, and standard deviation. All right. Finally, I'm going to change the weight, and I had the wrong number on the notes, by multiplying all of the data. So I'm going to show you how I generated this data. I hit stat, edit, and I'm going to list 4. And what I'm going to do is multiply every number in list 1 by the conversion factor, which is actually pretty small. It is 0.4535 and some more, 92. Okay, and now I have my new list. Do one var stats to get my new set of data, or my new summary statistics, I should really say. And this is what I'm generating. Now this one, all of the numbers look different. And in fact, if even the IQR and the standard deviation, see how IQR is the same for these first sets, but it changed here. Well, if you actually went ahead and multiplied that IQR by the conversion factor for kilograms, you get the IQR we generated from the data. Same thing for the standard deviation. So here, if you took every one of these numbers and multiplied by this conversion factor, you would get these new numbers from the original. So let's go ahead and take a look again at scaling and shifting data. So here, what I did is I'm going to do comparative box plots for the ones that are shifted. So I make sure all the box plots are on. I've got list 1, and I turn on outliers. Plot 2, make sure I turn that on, and make sure it's outliers, it's the right list. So now go to plot 3, turn that on, and get the outliers, and then make sure that's list 3. didn't do it for list 3. There we go. Now let's use the box plots to see the effects of shifting and scaling. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and plot the 3 ones that basically just have list 1, list 2 here. I'm going to change that to list 2 for this is the second one. And then I'm going to turn on plot 3 and turn that on and change that to list 3. And then hit graph and zoom if I need to, which I shouldn't. Zoom in 9 always brings it right in. And so the first one is my original. The second one I have shifted left by 5 pounds, and the right one shifted to the right from the original by 5 pounds. So there's a 10-pound difference there. The graphs don't look any different, right? You can see they look very similar. But what does happen is that basically it shifts the min Q1, the median Q3, the max, and the mean. So the actual numbers or measurements that we have for data points. It did not affect the IQR or the standard deviation. All right, so let's go ahead and look at what happens when we plot the scale data. So I'm going to do the stat plot, and this time I'm going to change plot 2 to L4. And I'm going to turn off plot 3 because I only have the original and the scale data. So let's turn that off and hit graph. And now you can see that now not only it's not really shifted, what it is it's multiplied. This width here, this IQR is smaller than that IQR. This whisker is smaller than that whisker. So scaling scales all of the numbers, your min, Q1, median, Q3, and the max, and the mean. And it also affects the IQR and the standard deviation. Now, when you're doing both shifting and scaling, remember to do the shift for all your data first, and then scale. Go ahead and do the multiplication for the data.